Welcome to Sri Lanka Rugby TV. We are here with Sean Horan, the coach of the Chinese women's team. He's been in charge of the Black Fern Sevens leading up to the Olympics in Rio in the previous years, and they won a silver medal there. And it has been a great pickup for Chinese women as they focus on the Olympics as well. I just want to know a few questions from you, Sean. What are your expectations leading into the final stage of this series of the Olympic qualifier next month?
I think for us, it's just about getting better in this tournament. The last couple of tournaments was a good hit out for us pre-season wise. We've used it as selection purpose more so than performance purpose, and that's been able to help us identify a squad that we believe will be able to qualify in Guangzhou in November and qualify well. So it's been good. It's been a good hit out for the girls. We've progressed well. We've still got a long way to go and where we want to go, but there's been some good things.
So starting from the U2 core from the first leg of the tournament of the Asian Series and leading up to this tournament, are you happy with the overall improvements across the board, or what is your view on that?
Yeah, across the board, if you move away from the performance phase and you look at building what we're trying to build for, and it's around the Olympic qualification, and there's no better way than having good competition in Asia. There's no better way for us to look at combinations, no better way for us to look at selection of where we're going and what we want to actually get out of the players. And my belief is that where we are heading, we've proven the way. When we get it right, we look very good. When we don't get it right, we've got some improvements to make, and that's like anything. But what I've been really impressed with is just the attitude of the players. We've been positive to want to play the game and play a different brand. And I think when you do that, you've got to be courageous. You've got to be strong mentally and physically to be able to handle that challenge. And I think we've done it pretty well.
So being involved with the Black Fern Sevens for a number of years and winning like so many World Series tournaments leading up to the Olympics, a silver medal there. What do you think needs to be done here in this program to get over the likes of, say, Japan and be a core team in that World Series?
I think it's just consistency, really. It's consistency of the program, it's consistency of the players. We've introduced a lot of things for the players that are new. It's all about building a program of sustainability. I think we did that pretty well in New Zealand over that time. We were very lucky. We come from a rugby nation, and a lot of the probably older rugby players helped out a lot of the younger girls when we first started back in 2011. And now you look at the Black Ferns now, and the leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else, just the way they play the game. So for us it's about patience, but it's about building blocks and ideally building a foundation that allows China to get to the Olympics, and then ideally performing well and then getting back into the World Series. But it does take time. China's not a historical rugby nation. So there's some other historical rugby nations that have had rugby around, and I think that helps. But what I like about China is the potential, and the growth potential is huge. It's just about, as I said, we've got to give it time, but it's got to be consistent time. So we can't chop and change. We've got to get a foundation set for the future and really have a pretty strong plan that we all believe in, and then just go to it.
So as you said, you coming from a country like New Zealand where rugby is obviously a prominent sport there and it has huge impact over there. So what do you think that the development in the women's game, because I think it's the fastest growing sport in the world at the moment, what do you think its impact on Chinese women's rugby? Do you think there are more girls approaching the game now, getting into rugby? What do you think on that aspect of it?
Yeah, I think it's like any sport. It was his first Olympic cycle with a male and female, and if you look back of when it first, back years ago, you had some core teams that played along the World Series and the World Cups and those sorts of things. But I think when you look at it now, just the quality and the way nations are going about it, where the females are they're fitter, faster, stronger than they have ever been. They're more skillful. They're making smarter decisions and better decisions. They work really well together as teams, so they don't really a lot of the time rely on just an individual brilliance. And that's what I like about it. I think there's different brands of sevens being played around the world. You look at the New Zealand game with their skill set, their offloading ability, and they're always alive. You look at the Australians and the manipulation they play around with, their background of touch. You look at the historical sides of England that have always set piece and launch very dominant. Then you've got the size and speed of the likes of USA and Russia. You know, the Canadians go very, very well and always competitive. So I think across the board you're getting a lot more nations now that, you know, can beat anyone on any given day. And I think that's just testament to the time and the resource and the effort, both from the international bodies, the national bodies, but also the players themselves. You know, they've stepped into professionalism, and professionalism is a job, but it's a job that you enjoy, and you can see the joy in most of the nations. You know, they enjoy being on the circuit, they enjoy going to the World Cups, and they love going to the Olympics. So I think if you look at the status of the way it's growing, it's a growth game, both in the 7s and 15s, and personally being involved in both sides of the game. I think the 7s for the females has really kind of made rugby a flavour, and 15s have jumped back into it, and I think it's great for rugby in general.
Yeah, so when you talk about fitter and stronger, you have come across some great athletes who represented the Black Ferns, and Sarah Goss, you say Kayla McAllister, Portia Woodman. All these girls come from, I guess, from netball backgrounds, I guess. Am I right? And you all had this program where Go for Gold, if I'm correct, right? Yeah. So, what do you think there's a necessity in the Asian circuit as well for these programs to be implemented in their own countries to discover these athletes and to get them into the next level?
Yeah, very much so. You know, I think there's an ability across the world to look at that, and if you look at other sports and the way females are going now, it's more of a higher performance than it has ever been. You know, but I think there's a genuine ability now, and a desire and a want and an opportunity to go to the highest level. You know, we were, as I said before, we were lucky that we had a good core group of rugby players, ex-Black Ferns 15s, and some of the girls that went to Dubai back in '09, and they really helped kind of guide and shield in a way the girls that didn't come from rugby, you know, and they taught them as much as, and they probably taught them more than us coaches did. And I think probably we tend to forget about that, and I think we come from a rugby nation, which helps. But what I like is there's certain brands being played, as I said, you know, the USA, the way they play now, you know, it's a fast game. They're fit, they're big, and they go for it. You know, you've got to love it. And you know, Canada are always challenging and always doing those sorts of things. But I think for other nations, if they are smart, it's about identifying the right athletes that their 7s want to be, and then really having the foundation to build a skill set. You know, so you know, I was lucky to be part of that and help drive what we did drive back in New Zealand, and go for gold, and finding talent and actually just creating a game. I think that was probably the biggest thing we did. Even though we were winning World Series and World Cups, we created a game, and I think that's something everyone that was involved back in those earlier days can be really proud of.
Yeah, so coming from a country like New Zealand, did you find it, how was the transition from New Zealand to a country like China, where the food is different, the culture is different, and you know, how did you find that transition?
Yeah, I think it's like anything. When you've travelled enough and you've been around the world and you've been immersed into cultures, everyone's different. You know, we're all the same. We're all human beings, but I think for something that's where it stops. You know, so you know, the food is different. It's a challenge. The environment's different, and just the mindset's different. You know, but what I do love about probably the female sport is that the girls are genuinely wanting to learn. They bring a smile. They enjoy every day, and they really buy into wanting to get better every day. You know, and they forget that they've actually haven't come from a lot, but they get after it. You know, and that's what I probably love about the sport of rugby. It gives you so much, and it's not really the winning of trophies and medals. It's more so the friendship and the self-belief it gives you. You know, it's a challenging sport. I don't think there's no other sport that challenges the skill set, the mind, and the physical attributes that you have to do as a rugby player.
So being part of so many World Series tournaments, what do you think, are there any significant differences in the competition at that level and at the Asian level, and do you see that there's a big gap between the competition levels, or what do you think on that front?
Yeah, there is a you know, coming back into it with the Chinese girls just for the last 3 tournaments, I'd seen there's quite a bit of growth in the women's game, probably around the physical side. You know, so if you think of where they are now, they're a lot fitter than they used to be. You know, across the board, they're probably quicker across the board. Some teams have really developed their skill set a lot better, some haven't. I was quite surprised at that. A lot more of the programs are a lot more professional, and the players are more professional. And I think the gap between Asia is probably again is the consistency of being patient to build a program around trying to seek high performance, and that takes a while, and it takes some learning curves. We went through that with New Zealand about just trying to build a high performance culture with the players understanding that there is demands around it, and it's not personal, but it's very professional. So I think there is a gap, but looking the way Japan have been going, and they are a host nation, I'm proud to say we've got better. I think the likes of Kazakhstan, when they get their game right, it's very similar to a Russian game, that if they get on top of you, it's pretty hard to get back. What I like is seeing the likes of Thailand and Sri Lanka and actually wanting to play the game, and that's what I believe is that they're challenging themselves to actually want to play the game, and not go into their shell and look at a version that may suit them. They're actually challenging themselves to want to be better and being courageous about it, and I think that's fantastic. And when you see the girls constantly doing that and constantly loving what they do and with a smile on their face, I think it's a great thing for the game.
So lastly, I just want to know what are you planning to achieve out of this tournament as a whole, and since this been the last tournament before the qualifier, what are your expectations like going forward? Like, can you just tell us about the matches in your group and what's your plan ahead of these games? What do you want to achieve out of it?
Yeah, there's certain aspects of our game, around roles and responsibilities, and just the girls understanding what the demands of them being able to do their job and doing it well. Cutting out the unforced errors that usually happen in your first couple of tournaments, and then really just actually expressing ourselves a little bit more, and looking at playing at a pace that we believe we can play at, and challenging ourselves. We have the philosophy here that we want to be better and all those sorts of things every day. But what I love about these girls is they're wanting to challenge themselves, and every day they're aspiring to do that, and they're also aspiring to get the young Chinese girls that are 8 or 9 or 10-year-old to play rugby just through the way these girls perform. So this tournament, they're going to bring a challenge. Singapore and Kazakhstan and Malaysia in our pool will always challenge us. So we've got to be on our game. Kazakhstan are big. Singapore and Malaysia want to play a game that is quick. So we've got to be on song around just doing our job really, really well, and challenging ourselves to be better with making smarter decisions.
So thank you, Sean, for your time, and thank you for being with us, and appreciate it. All the best for the tournament.